Morning everybody, Mark from the Albany Business Centre. Any second. How are we all this morning? I'm here with Jenny Feast from Jenny Feast Photography. Thank you so much for coming in to see us today, Jenny.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure, as if I don't spend enough time here.
No, you do spend a lot of time here, but we're really privileged to have Jenny coming in. Jenny, if you don't know, has got a cracking photography business here in the Great Southern, and she's also used to work for ABC as well.
I also worked for the Weather Bureau.
For the Weather Bureau, so we won't talk about the weather today because that gets boring and that's your old life.
Well, yes, that's true.
But Jenny also does some workshops and stuff for us on photography, one-on-one, 101 stuff. I've kind of pushed her in the focus of doing phones because that's tend to be what people use a lot. But as well as your own business and all that sort of stuff, you do this. You come and see us.
Yeah,
and
I
help,
do.
and help the lovely people.
I do. Yeah. Look, it's been a really, business is a big part of our community, and I think that for me running a small business, you guys have been a really good help to me.
Bless, thanks.
And it's also like a really good networking opportunity as well, sort of between your business and my business, and I do business photography, so that's pretty handy.
Kind of works.
Yeah, it does. It goes hand in hand.
But today we're going to be talking about basic photography stuff, which people should know, things that they probably aren't doing at the moment, and we've got some questions as well, which is even better. People are sending questions, and I keep saying, when you see this coming up, send us in questions so that we can ask them for you. And today I get to ask some for you rather than me making them up.
Well, that's good.
This is awesome. So tell me why people need a really good photo in their business.
Look, if you're using authentic photos for your business, it's going to connect with your clients more readily. So using stock photos has its place, but essentially it's really not getting any bang for your buck because each business is different. And to really thrive in the business world and really put yourself ahead of your competitors, you're trying to connect with your clients. We're very savvy as consumers, so we're looking for local businesses who are doing things that align with our values, but also that we can see ourselves interacting with. So using really strong imagery for your business that's designed for your business is going to connect far more readily than just a stock standard photo. And I'm looking to connect with a business that I want to interact with. I want to know that there's quality. I want to know that they're professional. I want to know that they're serving me as their consumer.
Yeah.
And that's an easy way to do that is through authentic imagery.
And it's good that you say that because we talk about it all the time. Whenever we're doing social media workshops or we're presenting about branding, of which we've got Nicola next month doing a live from the pod for Synergy to talk about branding.
Yeah.
So this kind of fits into that your face is really the most important thing, especially if you're in a small business.
Yeah.
People want to connect to you. People trust you more if they can see your face and see that you're doing things. So this is why it's really important to have a good photo so people can look at it and go, okay, yeah, that's who I'm talking to.
Yeah, and look, it's not necessarily the most comfortable thing having your photo taken, and I know this. I've been a photographer for 12 years and I still feel a little bit icky having my photo taken.
Yeah.
But what I would say to that end is that it's not actually about you. So you might be feeling a little bit self-conscious having your photo taken, but in the end, it's actually about your customer. So your customer's wanting to engage with you. And so the more that you show up, the more they're going to want to say, I really want to support that brand. You're building brand awareness and you're also building brand loyalty because people can see that you're an authentic person. You're not just a Chinese company who's trying to sell you something that you don't necessarily need.
Yeah, and to that end, if you've got a photo, does it have to be a really good photo? Because in the world which we're living in at the moment, where everything's filtered beyond recognizable people, how perfect does a photo have to be, and how realistic should people be about the perfection of their photo? What?
What I want, no,
Good question, right?
It is, and it's a really good question. What I want to say to you is that in a photo, so you might be very self-conscious about your wrinkles or your nose, I don't know.
You're saying I've got wrinkles and a big nose? Yeah. Yeah.
He said.
Yeah.
But other people aren't going to see that.
Mm.
So the things that you're the most self-conscious about, people aren't going to see that. The more airbrushed and perfect you are, I think the less realistic people are going to see you as. So I look for personality and authenticity in photos, and it doesn't need to be perfect at all. There are some simple ways that you can elevate your images to look slightly better than perhaps a selfie that you're doing on your phone.
Yeah, it's backwards.
Yeah, a little bit weird. You know, there are some simple things that you can do, but also it doesn't need to be perfect. What you've got to think about is the people who are consuming that image, right? And
Absolutely.
I don't want to be sold something by a size 8, 18-year-old because that's not who I am.
That's not who you identify with.
Exactly. So if your target audience is sort of 40 to 60-year-olds, then you should be showing authentic 40 to 60-year-olds. You're not going to be selling wedding dresses on a 16-year-old model because the person who's buying that probably is going to be somewhere between 30 and 40 years old, and they might not be size 8s, you know? So
really good advice.
Yeah, thinking about your clients.
Really good advice, and actually leads us into the first question which somebody sent through, and they said, what is the one thing anyone can quickly and easily do to improve their photos on their phone?
On their phone?
On their phone.
I would be turning your grid on your phone.
Yeah.
So if you haven't done it before, you go into your phone settings, go into your camera and turn the grid on. And what that does is it allows you to center your photos, but also it means that you can put people onto so the grid essentially divides your photo into 9 pieces.
Yeah.
So there's 2 lines down, 2 lines across.
I've got it on mine because you set it up for me to make sure that I had the grid on my phone.
So we'll put it into the comments, but essentially what the grid does is it will teach you to put the most important aspect of your photo onto the lines. Our brains read photos and images in a particular way, like we're reading from left to right.
Yeah, like a normal book.
Yep. And our brain automatically will go to a part of the photo. So essentially just over here.
Yeah.
About there.
Yeah.
That's your main point. If you put somebody's face in a photo over on the top
left. Top left?
No, top right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, on that corner of the grid. That's where the brain automatically goes, and we talk about leading lines in photos and all that sort of stuff. Essentially all we're talking is the language of how our brains read a photo. So the first thing that I would do if I had access to anybody's phones, excuse me, is put the grid on.
Yeah.
If you're going to take photos of the horizon, the grid is great because then you get straight horizons.
You can line it up, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we use those sorts of tools, and you know, I use professional cameras and I have grids on all of my cameras because it helps me to choose how I'm going to compose a photo.
So it's all the same. Essentially, it doesn't matter what equipment you're using, you put the grid on all the time because then they're in line, and it's a guide, right?
Yeah, and it's an easy way to remind yourself that there are, you know, like easy ways to make a photo look better.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll post pictures of that at the end of this, so that then people can go back and watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing that I have been asked a couple of times recently is why are the photos from my phone coming out so small, or having difficulty getting the photos from your phone, say, to a printer, or say you're putting it into Canva or onto social media. There's a way that you can do it in your iPhone to change it from the lowest resolution. So you can take lots of photos. It will save room in your phone using HEIC version. But if you actually want to use your photos within your business, you'd really like to have them as JPEGs.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a really easy way to fix that on your phone. You go to your settings, you go to your camera, and in your camera, it's going to ask for formats. And we'll pop a screenshot up about this as well. But essentially, you want to change it from HEIC.
You're doing this as we speak, aren't you?
I'm like, it's actually really simple to do. So you go into your formats and it says high efficiency image capture. I think that's what HEIC means. It's high efficiency something.
Resolution? I don't know.
There's no R in there.
I don't know.
I'm going to leave that with you.
I thought you said HERC.
I see. Yep. To most compatible, which is going to give you JPEG images. They're the ones that you can manipulate a little bit better. They're a bit bigger, which means that when you print them, you can blow them up a little bit bigger.
Gotcha.
Also, they're just easier to work with. Our computers are all set up to work with JPEG images. Canva likes it, PDFs like it, Word likes it. So.
And that's a really good trick. But I didn't know that at all. And oddly, last week I was trying to send some photos through to Charlie to use for a Canva slideshow that she was putting together for us for a presentation, and we couldn't use any of the photos because it was in the wrong format.
Yeah, you can change it afterwards, and the way that I do that, actually, if somebody sends me through a small resolution, I ask them to send it in the largest format they have to my email, and then I import it into my computer and change the HEIC to JPEG.
Right, gotcha.
It's a less effective way of doing it, but you can work around it if that's what you've got. But I would go and change that in your phone now. It's going to take up a little bit more space, but it's going to save you a whole lot of headaches in the end.
Awesome, and that's really simple. So really the two things so far are grids and change the format.
Yep.
I'm going to write that down. Grids, format. So at the end, I'm going to go, that's the three things I'm going to do.
Yep.
Awesome. Beautiful. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question.
Yep.
Although, did we cover on anything else people can do to improve their photos on their phone? Is there like a certain angle you should be holding at, or let's say for a selfie?
Okay, for a selfie, you're always you're always just going to avoid the chins. I've got 4 of them. I hope you've got all of my best angles, but always above.
Yeah.
So particularly when you're shooting women, always above. I work on this analogy. If you're taking photos of people, above you is always good. If you're going to take photos of images, I just want to point out that on your phone, the camera's at the top. If you're going to take photos of images, turn your camera upside down.
I do this now. Since you held the workshop here, I do that all the time now when I'm taking photos of stuff.
Yeah, so for people, use the camera at the top because it's going to give you a more flattering angle.
Yeah.
For images of products or objects or anything that you want to be low, hold it down the bottom. Yeah, yours is a little bit
mine's
easier
a little bit easier to see for everybody. So where am I there? So I'm holding it upside down, obviously. And the nice thing that I find with that is it's more stable in your hand, because if you're holding it like that, you're trying to do this and it's always flapping around. But if you're holding it that way, it's more stable. And yes, you can hold it like that and it's even doubly stable. But you can hold it with one hand and use your thumb just to click the button. Just to, because your thumb's right there. It's right where it should be. So
The other thing is, if you're going to take a photo sideways, put one hand this way, so you're sort of using it as a tripod. So you're holding you've got a really nice stable backing, and then you can take your photo from there. So use your whole hand as a bit of a tripod. The other thing is, don't be afraid to use a tripod. You can get pretty cheap ones from some of the... you
can get them from anywhere.
Are we allowed to say no?
Let's say there's the German supermarket.
The larger department stores,
The German supermarkets, the other big superstores, they do tripods, which is a basic one, right?
Sort of $5-10.
Yeah.
And they're okay.
Yeah.
They're not fabulous, but they're more stable. So if you're going to be taking repeated images, say you've got a product that you want to take photos of over and over again, pop it on a tripod. Then you can just touch the screen, or you can use the side buttons to take your photos. But it's just as simple, and then you don't have to overthink things.
And that's, you know, that's a really good point, because we see a lot of people, especially because we live in the Great Southern, there's great photo opportunities everywhere. So we see a lot of landscape and a lot of nature photos. So if you've got a really cheap, dodgy tripod in your car, it's just so big. It's like it's down by the seat. You can just whoop it up and chuck it on the roof of the car, on the bonnet of the car. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why wouldn't you?
They're handy. They're really handy to have.
So grids, tripods, holding it up for people, turn it around for products.
Correct.
Best way to take photos. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
And you know that, like, it's very cliche to say the best camera is the one in your hand. And I would add to that saying the best camera is the one that you know how to use. So if you know how to use your phone camera, then, and it's readily available to use it. Keep practicing and use it.
And keep the lens clean as well, guys. Give it a bit of
T-shirts are really good for that.
All right, next question. So we're on to question 2 now. Would love to know the best formula to get consistent lighting when photographing on many separate days, mainly indoors, and small items like ours, which is earrings.
Yeah.
Wow. So lighting. It's a lighting thing, but they're indoors.
Yeah, lighting is key to photos. Essentially, you're capturing light. That's what photos are. So if you're going to be consistently taking photos, you know, over a period of time.
Which sounds like this person is doing earrings a lot.
I would set up a space. Your best friend's white, right? So if you don't have natural light, like ideally what you would do is set up at a 45-degree angle from a window that gives you natural light.
Okay.
The light will change over the day. You pick, and you practice this, you go through and see how the light reflects throughout the day. And maybe you would choose, say, 10 o'clock in the morning is when the best light is in that corner, and that's when you do your photos, and you'd leave it set up there, you know, if you had that opportunity. I use things called reflectors, and there are lots of ways that you can do that.
Yeah.
White is your best friend. So say I've got a window over this side, so over here I'm going to put a reflector.
Yeah.
And what that's going to do is bounce light onto the thing that I'm photographing. So it hits, the light's coming in through this window.
Yeah, that window. Yeah, come through that window.
Yep, and hitting the reflector and bouncing back. So we're getting light from both sides on the product that we're using. If you don't have a natural light source,
then, and let's be honest, Great Southern this time of the year can be a little bit tricky in some houses.
In some, yeah, absolutely. Grey skies are actually a friend because clouds act as a diffuser for the light, so they soften the light. You get less shadows.
Awesome.
It's grey skies are your best friend. The hardest light to shoot in is actually blue skies with the sun really high in the sky. You get a lot of shadows. If you don't have natural light, what I would be doing is thinking about purchasing, say, a ring light, something, it doesn't need to be expensive, and then putting it off to the side. Overhead light is going to throw shadow, but if you can bring light off to the side and have it as an artificial window, essentially.
So for those people who don't know what a ring light is, essentially you can get them anywhere. Again, you can get them from the same places you buy your tripods from. Don't have to be really expensive ones. It is literally
it's like a fluoro tube.
It's a fluoro tube,
but get the LED ones, not the fluoros. And the reason that is that fluoros cycle, so they actually, we don't notice it, but they actually flash. So when you're taking photos, fluoros are really difficult because they throw 3 different tones. If you can get the LED constant ones, they're much better.
That's all.
And they are relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, and you can do things. Yeah, you said have it on the side, but I've seen a lot of people doing it, especially when they're doing self portraits, and they're actually having the camera in the middle of it, so you've got the ring around the outside, and that's sort of the lights hitting your face and getting rid of shadow, right?
Yeah.
So.
And makes you it sets you apart from your backdrop as well. So ring lights are great for portraits. They're really good
45-degree angle or just on the side.
If you're going to do portraits, I would do it up where you're taking a photo from.
Okay. Yep. So have it essentially the ring light and your camera's right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Most ring lights come with the little clippy thing for your phone, so you can do that. If it's a product, to the side.
Yeah, off to the side. And you get 1 or 2 lights, even just using a table lamp.
Yeah.
You can do that. One thing that's really good to do it, if you've got some sheer curtains or even just like a very thin white sheet, to put that in front of it, you'll find that you'll diffuse the light, you'll get less shadows, and it'll make it look a little bit nicer. And also it'll elevate it just that little bit. If you can muck around with your lighting and get it right, particularly for product photography, you'll find that it will make your images that much better. And
look, that's not taking anything away from professional photographers, because they do this all the time and you do this all the time. But as a small business, and you're photographing, in this case, earrings, more than likely the cost of getting a professional photographer to do it isn't cost effective for the person. So if you're photographing earrings as this person is, give it a go yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You've now got the tips. Light on the side. If you've got some natural light, put that on the other side so it kind of diffuses on one side.
Yeah, so you reflect on one side and diffuse the light from, so diffusing is softening the light, and then reflecting, so using just a piece of core board, you can get it from the office suppliers, and use that to reflect a little bit of light. Move it around, have a little bit of a play, and when you get it right, leave it there, leave it set up, and then just change the object that you're shooting.
That's perfect, right? So then it's set up, you don't have to do anything, just change it, take the photo.
Look, you can go online and buy light boxes for product photography. They're relatively inexpensive, but you don't necessarily need them. So I'd start with that and then build your way up. And if you are looking at doing it a little bit more professionally, you want a white background to put it on your website, then I'd look at buying a light box, which essentially is just a white box with some lights. It diffuses the light, and you can go from there. But to start with
something which is relatively cost effective, or free in a lot of cases, because you'll have a light and a lamp somewhere around in the sheet, and just try it. And if you try it and it works and you keep doing it over and over and over, then get yourself a light box, which are relatively inexpensive anyway.
Yeah, they're sort of around that $40-50 mark.
Yeah, so it's not a lot of money anyway.
And you can still take the photos on your iPhone.
Yeah, but try first. Yeah, upside down. All right, next one. How do I get good lighting but not glare?
Okay, that's a really tough one.
So is it an angle thing? Is it?
Essentially, you want to kind of remove the light source. If I'm going to shoot, say, a picture with glass on it, I will typically light flat on the ground.
Yeah.
I will make sure, because you need some light, right? I will make sure that I'm not standing in the light, but I'll be directly over the top of it to try and get that. It's very difficult to shoot stuff with glass. It's probably the most technical thing that you can do, because you've got to avoid your reflection.
Yeah.
And any reflection from the lights above you, any reflection from any light source.
And heaven forbid your flash goes off, right?
Oh, don't.
At the same time.
Don't use your flash on your phone. Don't use it. Look, it's very, very tough, and it's a lot of trial and error. In that case, I do use a light box where I can actually put black over where I'm shooting. So if I'm shooting something from the front, I'll put black and then just have my camera lens poking through the black, so you don't get any reflection back.
Okay.
Something matte black.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything to avoid those reflections. It's a lot of trial and error, and it's very difficult. It's difficult doing things like glass photography, wine bottles.
Wine bottles, pictures, yeah.
It's really difficult. It's really difficult.
And that would be the same as well for people who've got short-term stay accommodation, that sort of stuff, because you've got windows and mirrors everywhere. So
make sure they're clean is the biggest tip that I can give you. Just make sure that if you're handling anything, it's clean, you've got gloves on, or you've just got a polishing rag in hand, because there's nothing like having dirty fingerprints.
Dirty fingerprints.
On photos, yeah.
That's it. All right. So this one came. I know the person who sent this one in. So they used to work here. They used to run this place. But we won't mention the name, Vicky. I've been taking photos of paintings and wondering if there's a trick to getting them true to shape instead of the distorted pentagon angle effect, which seems to happen organically.
Yes, there is a trick to that.
Yes.
Actually, if you're doing it on your phone, if you're going to photograph anything that you want square, you want to actually be square above it. Or square straight onto it. You don't want your phone on any sort of angle. We'll post some screenshots because I did this earlier. On your phone screen, you'll find that if you go over the top of something in the middle of your little square here, so in the middle of my grid, I get a little crosshairs.
Yeah.
And if you adjust it just slightly until it's absolutely perfectly flat,
oh, I see. It does.
It turns yellow.
You've got a yellow and white thing. Oh, okay. I've never noticed that before.
See how you can see a white and a yellow one when it's off center?
Oh my God, mine does it. Mine does it as well.
And as soon as you get it right, it will turn yellow. Take the photo.
That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. I am more than impressed by that. I didn't even know it was there. And so most people you won't be able to see that straight, but you'll be able to see there's a little crosshairs in the middle. That's just brilliant. I'm done now. I'm out. That's made my life.
Good, I can stay here. I'm going to get marked.
Crosshairs. I'm going to write that one down as well for you. So I hope that's helped of how to get it straighter and
so make sure, like when you've got stuff hanging on a wall that is hanging flat to the wall, sometimes it'll lean a little bit forward. If it's leaning ever so slightly forward, lean your phone ever so slightly back. But I find the easiest way to do it is, again, lights off, stand right above it.
Yeah.
Make sure that wherever your light source is coming from, you're not standing directly in it, you're standing behind it. And then it's a little bit of trial and error. And if you have to crop your feet out of the photo, do that.
Just crop your feet out of the photo, that's fine. That's easy to do. Tripod, I guess.
Yeah, tripods are great.
Tripods are great, because by now we've all bought a cheap tripod from somewhere, so you can just use that. Easy. Okay, how do you capture original art and post online looking its best? Highlighting the depth of colour, texture, size, etc. And also then, how do you photograph art effectively when it's framed? Okay. That's from Karen. Thanks, Karen.
Hi, Karen. This is what I'm going to say about photographing art. It's difficult. Let's just circle back to how I talked about how difficult it is to photograph glass. If you can, take the glass out before you photograph it. It's going to make your life significantly easier, and you're not going to have to deal with any glare. It's also easier to get your stuff true to colour. I would come back to lighting it. I would still be using as much natural light as possible, because then you're not going to get any colour flare. So the lights that we've got in this room are quite blue. Quite often they're very warm. Yellow, and that's going to start throwing tones. So find the spot in your home near perhaps a glass sliding door or a window with some nice sheer curtains, if you're lucky enough to have that. If not, just bring it maybe a metre away from the light source. And just trial and error, essentially. With large pieces of art, I like to sit them on a floor, get my tripod going, stand up on a ladder if I need to, make sure the light is nice and even from either side, and then get right above it so you're not distorting the size.
I'm seeing a bit of a theme going here when it comes to artwork and stuff, is to get it off the wall and put it on the floor and photograph from above.
Yeah,
I had no idea that that was a thing. Like, honestly.
you can photograph it on the wall.
Yeah.
It just depends on you how you want your light to sit. Don't be afraid of shadows as well when it comes to artwork. A lot of people are like, oh, we've got to take all of the shadows out. Shadows give your artwork dimension and texture. Unless you're doing watercolors, it's not really a massive issue for your clients, for your consumers, to have a little bit of shadow in it. It is trial and error, but yeah, essentially I would be finding your best light, taking the glass out if you can, trying to make sure that they're square when you photograph it, and you can use your grid lines to help with that.
Yeah, so whether that's camera or whether that's phone, which we've spoken about before. Awesome. Hope that's helped, Karen. I've got 3 questions left, and I think these are going to be pretty quick ones.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really have to edit all your photos?
No, you don't.
No with the buts and yes with the maybe. Yeah.
But you can really elevate your photos by editing them, and that's things like making sure your colours are right, so they're not too golden, not too blue. And you can do that in your iPhone really easily. You can also add a little bit of contrast. You can add a little bit of exposure to them. You can brighten them or darken them. You can take a little bit of noise. Noise is the sort of dots, the grainy effect, which we get particularly when you're shooting in low light. You take some of the shadows out. There's lots of things that you can do. So you don't have to, but in my opinion, you can really elevate your photos and you can make them look more professional and more engaging by learning just some basic editing.
And okay, on that, and only because I'm interested, is it better to edit your photos to a point on your phone, people with the phone, to a point, edit it on the phone, and then use another editing equipment on your computer, or is it just send it to your computer and do it all on the editing stuff?
Oh, look, I find if you're doing stuff on your phone and you want this to be convenient, there are some amazing apps that you can use. Free apps like Snapseed, really intuitive, really easy to use. I'm a professional, I use Lightroom. Also, I find it quite intuitive, but I have been using it for a number of years. Lightroom has got the largest degree of option to change things, which means that you can adjust things just the minute amount. You can put vignettes around, vignettes sort of darken just the edges.
Yeah, I played with that on my phone actually.
You can adjust the contrast a lot more than you can just do. But even if you're just using your standard photo app, once you've taken a photo, you can actually go in and edit simple stuff. You can put filters on them. Look, to be honest, I don't think that the filters actually do a huge amount that you couldn't just do by adjusting down here. You can do things automatically, or you can change your exposures, light or dark. I'm not sure whether that's gonna.
Yeah, there you go. Go from one extreme to the other. Yeah.
You can change the brilliance. You can change the highlights. I typically will pull the highlights down ever so slightly, bump up the contrast just a little bit.
Yeah. So play with it.
Play with it. It's all about practice and finding what looks best for you and for your business, and then being consistent across the board. And that's what's going to make your images look that much better, is if they all look pretty similar, and that becomes your sort of brand voice.
And I think and we talk about it a lot, and I speak about it in branding, and Nicola who's in next month, we talk about things looking consistent.
Yeah.
And you'll start to find that with your photos, you'll use the same setting every single time. Like you just take a photo and then you'll move everything to the same positions.
Absolutely.
Because you know where they are and you know that that's for you.
Yeah.
And once you've got that and you've found that, then use it.
Then it becomes really easy and quick and simple, and then all of a sudden you're taking the guesswork out of what you're doing. And that's the whole point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotta make it easy.
Gotta make it easy.
Yeah.
Right. How should you pose for the best photos? We've done that, holding it up and looking great. But it's something, and it's the thing, right? Because you're you're a photographer and you're always trying to get people to pose.
Yep.
Best way for people to pose, the quickest way. And so that somebody is out and they go, oh, I'm just going to take a photo of you. How should you?
Okay, if you're a woman, what I typically say is turn your body ever so slightly sideways to the camera, so 45 degrees, not even, it just needs to be one shoulder closer to the camera, and then shift your weight onto your back hip. So if you're standing straight on to the camera, that's going to get you at your widest. So if you turn ever so slightly, drop a hip, you're going to find that you're giving your body curves. For men, it's about the same thing. If you're worried what to do with your hands, pop them in one pocket. Try not to put your hands behind your back, because then all of a sudden it gives you a weird posture, but also it looks like your arms have been amputated, which is great if they have, but if they haven't, we want hands in photos. And the best thing to do really is to engage with the camera, because your eyes are the most expressive part of your face. It might feel silly leaning slightly towards the camera.
So a bit of a...
Yeah, well, I find that if I stick my bum out just ever so slightly, it pulls all of my chins flat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So your bum is connected to your chin, is what you're saying?
Yeah, well, it's just pulling all the skin tight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's nice. Nice.
Anyway.
All right, moving on to the next question then. Next question, and the final question which I've got here. What is the biggest thing you see that people could easily fix?
Straighten your horizon.
Just straighten the horizon?
Yeah, so if you've got lines in photos, you want them to either be like very vertical or very horizontal. If things are askew, your brain sort of goes a little bit, weird. So if you can find a way to straighten your lines, that's the easiest fix that I see.
Okay,
quite often.
That's a nice easy one. And no questions today from anybody. So that's easy.
That's
You've
good.
done, right?
Yeah.
No, Jenny, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Horizons, grid lines, format, change the format so you can move that around. Forget your crosshairs in there, and if you're doing photos or paintings, get them on the floor.
Yeah.
Take them from above.
Find your best lighting.
Yeah.
Like walk around your house or your workplace and find what time of day the lighting is best. And if it's in a convenient place, use that place every time. You're going to get consistency across your photos. And that's the biggest thing, probably the biggest takeaway that I can give you in terms of taking photos for your business is be consistent. The more you chop and change, the harder it's going to be for your consumers, your clients to identify your images and go, oh yeah, I remember that business is doing that, and I've got to go and buy that. I've got to go and book an appointment with them. So show up.
Yeah, and show up.
Give it a crack.
Yeah, just give it a go. Yeah, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Exactly.
And I'm going to ask you now, because you ran a workshop for us earlier in the year.
Yep.
Will you run another one for us later in the year?
I will. So
I know you've got your own coming up.
Yep, I've got a workshop in which...
Full day, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Wow.
It's going to be 4.5 hours, and it's going to be like an intro to Lightroom and post-processing for your photos. So if you're taking great photos already, but you just want to learn how to elevate them a little bit more, we're going to have a full day on an introduction to using Lightroom, some of the simple things that you can do to really elevate those images to make them look professional.
So keep it on your website and our website for those, because we're obviously pro. But later in the year then, Photography 101 again.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's
great last time.
Yeah.
It was a packed house.
Yeah, and it went really well. And this time, next time, I think what we do is try and make it give a bit more practical time so that we can have a few tasks and I can answer all the questions, because we had a lot of questions afterwards.
We tried to cram it all into 2 hours.
Yeah, we might make it a bit longer.
Oh, sneaky,
maybe.
Sneaky longer.
We'll chat. We'll chat.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so guys, look, thank you so much, Jenny. I hope that's helped you guys today. Everything, some great photographic tips. Yeah, hope that helps. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks for having me.